A very good morning to all, globally, electronically. I, Dr. Tirsha Singh, on behalf of Center of Excellence in Healthcare Technologies and Informatics, Department of Biotechnology and Bioinformatics, JP University of Information Technology, Vaknaghat, Solan, Himachal Pradesh, India, welcome you all for the very first webinar of our international webinar series on healthcare technologies and informatics. First, I would like to introduce you a bit about our Center of Excellence that we are calling as CEHTI. This center was established in the year 2017 under the Department of Biotechnology and Bioinformatics to prevail some outstanding work related to academic and research activities in the area of healthcare technologies and informatics, which includes bioinformatics, biomedical informatics, and all other related domains. This center is dedicated to carry out some workshops, training programs, invited talks, and these activities we were already doing in earlier years. And now we are doing this international webinar series. For this first webinar will be held today. Next will be in September, and we will try to organize one international webinar on interest of topic on every month. Now I would like to call upon our HOD sir, Professor Sudhir Kumar Sayal, to brief you about the department and its activities. Professor Sayal.
Good morning, everyone. This is just brief introduction about our Department of Biotechnology and Bioinformatics. This department was established in the year 2002. Since the inception of the university, that is JP University of Information Technology. We are in the beautiful hills near Shimla, and this department is having various programs. So I thought that before we start this seminar of our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Vinod Kumar Ji, let me introduce you about a brief of this department also. So this department is having various programs like BTech in Biotechnology, BTech in Bioinformatics, and then MTech in Biotechnology, and also MSc in Bioinformatics and MSc in Biotechnology. Other than that, we have a very strong program of PhD, both in biotechnology as well as in bioinformatics. And this department is supported by various funding agencies for research grants also. And other than that, the department is having very active student exchange program with two universities. One is South Dakota School of Mines and Technology at USA, and the other one is University of Nebraska at Omaha in USA. So every year, the students, they go in the final semester for doing their training and advanced research over these two universities. And last 3 years, by the efforts of our Vice Chancellor, Professor Vinod Kumar Ji, we established two Center of Excellence, and one was Center of Excellence in Sustainable Technologies for Rural Development. The other was, for which he is the honorable speaker today, that is a center in our healthcare and medical informatics. So this department is having a lot of very vibrant students starting from graduate, undergraduate, and postgraduate. And I feel that you will enjoy the seminar today. And whenever the COVID-19 pandemic is over, you are most welcome to have a beautiful look of this JUIT, and please do visit our department and enjoy the seminar now. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, sir. Now, just would like to inform you that we received an overwhelming response from all over the world with more than 500 registrations for this webinar from more than 15 countries, which includes besides India, Canada, USA, Poland, Ukraine, Hong Kong, Bhutan, Indonesia, UAE, Bangladesh, Philippines, Nigeria, Iraq, Israel, and many more. So with this, now I would like to call upon Dr. Ragini Raj Singh. She will introduce you today's speaker, Honorable Vice Chancellor, sir, for today's webinar.
A very good morning to all of you. Today, I, Dr. Ragini Raj Singh from Department of Physics and Material Science, JP University of Information Technology, welcome you all for the inaugural webinar of this international webinar series. Today's talk will be delivered by our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Vinod Kumar. It is my privilege and immense pleasure to introduce Professor Vinod Kumar to all of you. He has many qualifications in his credit and having years of experience in teaching and research. So now I am telling more about Professor Vinod Kumar. So Professor Vinod Kumar was Deputy Director and Professor of Electrical Engineering at IIT Roorkee. He received his BTech degree from Punjab Engineering College, Chandigarh, and MTech and PhD from IIT Roorkee. He has many academic awards, distinctions, and scholarships to his credit, including the Khosla Research Award of University of Roorkee, first IEEE-RS Khandpur Medical Instrumentation Gold Medal in recognition of lifetime achievements and outstanding contribution in the field of biomedical instrumentation, K.S. Krishna Memorial Award of IETE, the Brij Mohanlal Award of IE, etc., has been recognized as an excellent performer for many years in IIT Roorkee. He is the best teacher awardee of IIT Roorkee. Professor Vinod Kumar has about 180 research papers to his credit. He has guided 28 PhDs, more than 150 MTech dissertations, and more than 150 BTech projects in the area of medical instrumentation, digital signal, and image processing. He held many positions in IIT Roorkee administration, that is, Dean Faculty Affairs, Head of Electrical Engineering Department, Continuing Education Center, QIP Center, Information Superhighway Center, and Audiovisual Center. He was also Associate Dean, Academic, Chairperson of many committees, and member of several academic committees of other educational institutes of higher learning and councils. He was National Coordinator of QIP. He has widely traveled around the globe for invited keynotes, research collaborations, and discussions. He has taken more than 90 assignments as consultant, which includes development of instruments, signal processing packages, residual life assessment of power plants, and e-governance. He has 45 years of rich experience of teaching, research, and technical education management. He is a life fellow of IETE and IE1, member IEI UK, and is a senior member of IEEE USA. His area of interest are medical instrumentation, digital signal processing, telemedicine, and e-governance. Now, I would like to invite Professor Vinod Kumarji to deliver his talk on the very imperative topic, that is healthcare status challenges and current technological solutions. I am sure this talk will be beneficial and enlightening for the participants from all the associated fields. Thank you. Over to Professor Vinod Kumar.
Very good morning to all of you. I am very thankful to Dr. Agni for giving my such a long introduction. But probably a person of such a long experience will always have such type of resume, or you can say introduction. Anyway, I am really very thankful to Dr. Agni. Regarding this topic, that is today's topic, I have selected the topic which is of current interest to everybody, especially during a period when pandemic, the COVID-19 is going on. There are so many solutions to this, so many theories, studies are going on. So I said, okay, I will just try to select a topic which is related to present day pandemic also, and otherwise also will be of interest to the general researchers. The topic has three components: healthcare status, challenges, and current technological solution. I am Vinod Kumar. Presently, I am Vice Chancellor of JP University of Information Technology, Vaknaghat. Earlier, I retired from IIT Roorkee. I was Professor of Electrical Engineering Department, and I was working as a Deputy Director IIT Roorkee when I retired. The three topics which I will try to touch today: healthcare status, healthcare challenges, current technological solutions. Now, healthcare status, what is health? If I define what is health, prior to 1948, we used to say a person is healthy if he is not having any disease, or if he is not infirmity, if he is not weak, then we used to say him a healthy person. But later on in 1948, WHO defined this definition to as health is a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being. So it's not merely the absence of disease, but other parameters like physical, person should be physically strong, mentally healthy, and socially also he is well connected and well-being. Further, in 1986, the definition was further improved, or you can say changed, looking the scenario at that time. A word resource was added, a resource for everyday life, not the objective of living. Health is a positive concept emphasizing social and personal resources as well as physical capacity. So then it became that you should have sufficient resource to fight with the disease, to live a very happy and long life. So more recently, this definition was changed to ability of a body to adapt to new threats and infirmities. That means like today's scenario, when COVID-19 virus is there, so the health is defined as we should fight with this virus and we should come out of this. So then we say the person is healthy. So then another term has been defined, that is immunity. So every time you must have seen on the news, in the news, that you have to improve your immunity. So health is basically governed by immunity. If a person is strong, immunity is high, he will be able to fight the coronavirus and he will come out of this phase very happily and healthy. So this is how the health is being defined in recent years. Now, some key points about health. Health can be defined as physical, mental, and social well-being, and as a resource for living a full life. That is, it refers to absence of disease, and it's not only absence of disease, but the ability to recover and bounce back from illness and other problems. Example I have already given you, the present day coronavirus, or you can say pandemic, which is worldwide. So a person is healthy if he is able to recover and bounce back from this virus. Factors for good health includes genetics. That is, genetics also controls the human genes, or you can say immunity, etc. The environmental conditions, pollution, etc. Relationships and education. How much you are aware about a particular disease and what are the precautions you have to take. And similarly, like if you take again an example of this COVID-19, about 3 months back, the education or awareness was very less. Large number of medical professionals throughout the world, they were trying different medicines. Some people said this medicine is working fine. Others said the other medicine is working fine. The medicine which was used for arthritis is very good. Like this, there were so many views coming because we were not that much educated. Now we are educated. Now you can see that the mortality rate, the death rate has decreased. Now people are not going into such a serious condition where ventilators are required, because we know how to manage this virus. Another point, healthful diet, exercise, screening for diseases. Now you see, diet is also becoming very important. Every individual is now educated what diet he should take, what diet he should not take. Exercise has also become a part of our daily life. Screening for diseases, we regularly go for blood test or other tests so that we can get screening of various type of diseases, whether a person is having sugar, diabetes, whether a person is having cardiac problem, whether a person is having respiratory problem. So all type of screening are being done regularly, and coping strategies can all enhance a person's health. So these are some of the key points about the health. Now, if you see a global life expectancy, say if I take 2000 as the base year and compare up to 2016, because data is available between 2000 to 2016, the increase in global life expectancy at birth. From birth, the life expectancy has increased by a factor of, by a year of 5.5 years. That is, in 2000, it was 66.5 years average age. 2016, it has become 72. Now it has again increased a little bit. You will find up to 60, then it is 66. In 2000, it was 66, and in 2016, it became 72. It has increased. Similarly, in case of male, in case of female, the average life expectancy was more even in 2000 and now in 2016. Another thing, increase in healthy life expectancy. So what is healthy life expectancy? See, average, if I take from 60, the earlier healthy life was this much. Now the healthy life has increased to this much. In case of female, this pink color indicates healthy life. So you can say healthy life at the age of 60 or around 60, it increased from 58.5 to 63.3 years. That is why many times you must have seen that people saying a person became ill just after the retirement. It's not the retirement. The overall healthy life was around 60. So people used to have some problem when they are around 60. So many times they correlate this with the retirement age. Unhealthy life years increase. This is another important point. Though life expectancy has increased by 5.5 years, but unhealthy life, say around 58, if the unhealthy life was 8 years in 2000, now it has become 8.7 years. Though this increase is marginal as compared to life expectancy. But sure, these are our factors of concern, that why unhealthy life has increased. It should decrease rather than increase. Further, if I go another statistics, percentage of death by age and World Bank income group. Now, death and income group, what is that? If you see low income group, percentage of death in low income group, the overall, this is percentage. The life after 70 is less. In higher income group, life after 70 is more. Or you can say life expectancy with high group countries is more as compared to low income group. So this data is available as per the World Bank data, that how the life expectancy in low income group countries is 62.7, is 18 years lower than high income countries. So you can see people, those who are developed countries, their life expectancy is more as compared to countries which are developing or underdeveloped. Now, causes of death. What are the causes of death? We have two sections. This right side is female, left side is male. If you just see, this is a border, this is a border line, this line 0, 0 is a border line. On this side, we have female data, this is for male data. So if you look at this, in case of females, low income group, female, red color, maternity condition. Maternal conditions are the main cause of death in low income group because they are during pregnancy, the proper care they are not getting. And this width, this number goes on decreasing when you move from low income group to high income group. So that means at the time of birth, the facilities which are available to low income group females is less as compared to higher income group females. But the causes of death in case of high income is breast cancer. So you have problems with low income group, which is the maternal conditions. You have problem with the higher income group, that is lifestyle, I will discuss later on. That is mostly cervical cancer, breast cancer, like that. And in case of male, low income group, mostly this color, you just see pink color, that is communicable diseases, perinatal and nutritional condition. Low income group, the problem is perinatal means before birth and just after birth. This is a 6 months period, roughly 1 month before and 5 months after birth. The causes of death of those small kids. Nutritional conditions are not good, and communicable means there are certain viruses which spread, which is communicable. Those are the main causes of death in case of male. This goes on decreasing when your income increases, means you get more facilities, you get more awareness, and this factor becomes less. But this light blue color increases. You see, light blue is non-communicable diseases. Non-communicable diseases are lifestyle diseases. It may be diabetic, it may be cardiac problem, it may be cancer. So here you get an idea that with respect to income, what are the diseases which are important? With respect to male, female, what are the diseases which are important? So now once we get this data on health, we can plan our technological solutions for different age group, different income group, and for different sexes, according to their type of the problems they are facing. Now, causes of death responsible for differences in life expectancy. Major causes of death in low-income countries: communicable diseases, that is the virus sort of thing, which spread from one person to another person. Injuries, if there is any accident or injury, proper treatment they are not able to get. Maternal condition, during the pregnancy, etc., the hygienic, the proper health conditions are not good, and health care is also not good. Major causes of death in high-income countries: non-communicable diseases, that is cardiac problem, respiratory problem, cancer, diabetic, etc. NCDs are often associated with more prosperous lifestyle. They are basically lifestyle diseases. People who are who are in a high income group, their life is so sometimes stressful. They move from one place to another place so frequently, their food habits becomes bad. They are not able to manage their own health. But on the other hand, however, the probability of dying prematurely from NCD, like cardiovascular disease, cancer, diabetic, chronic respiratory disease, is highest in low and middle. Though NCD disease is less in low income group, But if it is there, the death rate is more in low income group because they are not able to get the proper treatment or proper care because of their income level. Now again, if you see concentration of death according to national income of countries, difference in life expectancy between men and women in low income group countries, I have told you communicable. Oh, okay, this is already there. Now, Indian scenario. In India, the population is say 133 crore. Female 64.5 crore, male 69.3 crore. Life expectancy at birth. Male in India 67.4 years, female 70.3 years, and average is 68.8 years. Whereas world average is 72. We are lower than the world average. Life expectancy, average life is 72 worldwide, whereas India is 68.8. Similarly, in case of female, 74.2, we are 70.3. In case of male, 69.8, we are 67.8. So you will see that healthy life expectancy is also, in our case, less. Now, the reason for this can be, one of the reason can be, per capita health care expenses in India is 62 rupees, whereas worldwide average is 1000 rupees. So we are almost, you can say, even less than 10%, 6 to 7% with respect to the world average. GDP is also, we spend 3.6%, world average is 6.6. Now these are all problems, and similarly probability of dying from any of the cardiovascular disease, cancer, diabetes, chronic respiratory, these are the main diseases. So our rate is, world average is 21, we are 26, 15, we are 19.7. So death rate is more, average healthy life is less. This is the scenario with respect to world average scenario in India. Lifestyle diseases. Now we will see what are the lifestyle diseases. Lifestyle diseases are disease associated with the way a person or group of people lives. One of the lifestyle diseases is CVD, cardiovascular disease, that is disorder of the heart and blood vessels, blood flow. And what are the modifiable risks? This is very important. The risk which we can take care. High blood pressure, we can control our blood pressure. Then cardiovascular disease can be controlled. Abnormal blood lipid profile. These are the controllable parameters. These are the modifiable risk factors. They are, if the blood pressure is very high, if it is not controlled, then it is a highest risk. Similarly, lipid profile, if they are not controlled, then it is highly risky for any CVD problem. Tobacco use, physical inactivity, obesity, unhealthy diet, diabetes, heavy alcohol use. Now these are the avoidable risk factors. So we have to be educated with respect to these factors up to the level of lowest or uneducated citizen. Diabetic, this is another lifestyle disease. This is a metabolic disorder. There are 4 types of diabetes, type 1, type 2, then gestational, this is during pregnancy, pre-diabetic condition, which is impaired glucose tolerance. But type 2 is more common in India or worldwide. And modifiable risk are unhealthy diet, we have to control on diet, physical inactivity, that is if person is not doing any physical activity, then the diabetic condition may become more worse. Obesity or overweight, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, heavy alcohol use, psychological stress. Stress is also a factor which contribute to diabetes. High consumption of sugar, low consumption of fiber. So if our diet is not having fiber content, even then diabetic problem will increase for a person who is having type 2 type of diabetes. Another cancer, again you will see cancer affects different part of the body. Characterized here rapid creation of abnormal cell. What happens in case of cancer? The growth of abnormal cell is very rapid. About 70 lakh people die of cancer each year. 30% of those attribute to lifestyle choices, and major modifiable factors are smoking, passive smoking, as well as if you are near a passive smoking, a person who is into smoking, habit of smoking. So either you smoke or you live very near to that, both have the same effect. Radiation therapy, living in air polluted place, especially where asbestos, radon, chromium, nickel, arsenic, etc. is there. Hormone therapy, if people are taking, obesity, unhealthy diet, bad food habits, all these parameters, they contribute to the problem of cancer. Respiratory disease is another lifestyle disease. So again, in this case, you will see 90% of the death takes place in low-income countries because of the unhygienic conditions. Modifiable risk factor for respiratory diseases, smoking is the major factor. Then if a person is living in a dust and chemical vapor environment, air pollution is another contributing to respiratory diseases. Then infections, it may be corona infection, virus infection, any. So then what are the challenges? Now we get an idea that what is the present status of various types of problems, lifestyle diseases, and now what are the challenges, how we can cope up with this before we go to technological solutions. Challenges are lack of awareness, how to increase awareness with respect to various diseases, lack of basic medical facilities, lack of healthcare professionals, affordability, big hospitals are very costly, accountability of healthcare professionals, many times facilities are available in the hospital, but either the equipment is not working or the paramedical staff is not available or healthcare professionals are not available. Lack of hygienic and pollution-free environment. You have seen during, not this year, up to last year, what was the pollution level in major cities like Delhi, Banaras, and so many other cities. Clean drinking water is another issue. Nutritious food is another issue. Healthy lifestyle and exercise. That is why if you just look at some of the yoga gurus, the yoga has become very popular because people start getting advantage or better health care by using any means of exercise. Stress level is increasing because of our social status, because of our lifestyle, because of our work environment. Social and working environment is also a challenge. How we can cope up with this? Now, under lack of awareness, common causes of prevalent illness, like in case of, say, COVID-19, the knowledge was not available, but last year, swine flu, then there was chikungunya, all these, or you can say malaria, or you can say encephalitis. There are many such problems. If their prevention knowledge, how to prevent that, how to take care, is a major factor. Environmental health, pollution free, nutritional awareness, reproductive and child health. Now, these are lack of awareness, how we can make people knowledgeable with respect to these factors, then we will be able to cope up with these problems. We have lack of medical facilities. Lack of medical facilities is not only the facilities, but we do not know what is our right or what is the opportunity to use or benefit from healthcare. If a particular facility is there in a district hospital or a local hospital, is this a right to use that? How can I use that? How this opportunity is available to me? Factors which determine this access, that is, one is availability, if it is availability. Second one is supply, whether only one ventilator is there and the number of patients are very large. Utilization of healthcare services, that is how efficiently we can make use of these healthcare services, is another important parameter. But there are many other barriers, like a big hospital, financial constraints are there. In some cases, if it is a government hospital, organizational problems are there. Then some social and cultural. A person working in from North India, he is working in a South, may have some problem how to have access to this. Many times you must have seen, even in India, because of some political, some government will ban only this facility is available to people of this state, not to other state. Like this, there are certain basic problems which limits the utilization of services even in places where they are available. Then if you just look at the ability to enter a healthcare facility within 5 kilometers from the place of residence. I am staying, say, in a place like, say, Vakna Ghat or Solan. Only 37% of people are able to access to indoor patient facility. Otherwise, within 5 kilometers. Otherwise, 68% get only outpatient. Now, in my place where I am living, if within 5 kilometers there is no hospital with 100 beds or 50 beds, then inpatient facility is not available. So most of the people are having outpatient facilities. Now, if a person is serious, to take him to the hospital only for OPD, then to bring back, like in a place like this, Himachal, where you have to travel distance and hills also, it becomes difficult. Adequate number of personals, appropriately trained personals are not equitably deployed. You will find in remote areas, number is less, and in big cities, number is large. Only we have 20 health workers per 10,000 population, which is world level very, very less. Allopathic doctors are 31%, nurses, midwives 30%, pharmacists 11%, Ayush practitioner 9%, and 19% others. So you will find overall the number is less. Out of this number, if you just do the different grading, you will find the allopathic doctors are only 31% of this 20 number, which becomes very, very less. And workforce is distributed not optimally in villages, you have less workers, health workers than as compared to big cities. Further, poorer areas of North and Central India have lower densities of health workers compared to southern states. Even in case of states, for big cities, then in big cities, big hospital, it is not affordable. State-run health sectors still is the only option, because big hospitals, they are very costly, everybody cannot afford. So state-run health sectors like civil hospital or government hospital is only option for much of the rural and peri-urban areas of the community. But public sector offers healthcare at low or no cost, state-run hospitals, but is perceived as being unreliable and of indifferent quality. Generally, people feel government hospitals, they do not get proper care or facility. This is the Himachal is the, as per my experience, Himachal is one of those states where even public sector offers good medical facilities as compared to many other states. There are the issue is large number of posts are vacant. 10% of sanctioned posts of nurses, midwives are vacant. 40% of male health workers are vacant. That means a large number of positions are vacant. That is one of the reasons. And further, catastrophic sorry, catastrophic healthcare cost is an important cause of impoverishment. What happens? Suddenly a person gets a cardiac problem. Suddenly a person is involved in a serious accident. Lot of expenses he has to make, and that is one of the reason of his impoverishment. Means he spends all his life saving, etc., to pay the medical bills, and he becomes almost lifelong poorer. Our even healthcare professionals are not accountable in most of the places. So this is one of the challenge, which is like ethics in profession, responsible to clients, responsible to employer, peer and colleagues expect a code of conduct that will enable the profession to grow in harmony. So this is one of the important parameters. Even if we have facilities which are not sufficient, but those insufficient facilities are also not available in full. So now looking into this, then what are the current technological solutions? Current technological solution, our problems are number of our average age is increasing, number of people are increasing. Second thing, at remote places, medical health is not, healthcare is not available. A poor area, or you can say village side, the healthcare is not available. So how technology can help to cope up this situation when number of people are increasing, those who require healthcare, when remote places where the medical healthcare professionals are not there, how we can treat them from remote. Now these are the challenges, and technological solutions are affordable and user-friendly healthcare monitoring system should be there, like blood pressure, blood sugar, body mass index, oxygen level, cortisol, smart. Now we should be able to measure this from a remote. That means sitting in my office or residence, I can measure my blood pressure. I should be able to measure my blood sugar. I should be able to my oxygen level. You must have seen these days in pandemic, they say you use a pulse oximeter and measure your oxygen. level. If it is less than 93, you are required to consult a physician. So these are the where the technology is helping. Remote access to telemedicine or mobile healthcare. Our 108 mobile healthcare or telemedicine. Through telemedicine, I should be able to get the consultation. So this can reduce the load. Managing the massive volume of patient-related data, like there are million X-rays, ultrasound. We do not have a large number of professionals to read ultrasound. So is there any technological solution to that which can screen? These are the ultrasound which are okay. These are the MRIs are okay, no abnormality. Then load on professional will reduce. Oh. Remote access, telemedicine, managing massive data, Internet of Things, that is Internet of Medical Things. That means how we can implant or install sensors on the human body and parameters can be transmitted. Closed loop insulin delivery. There are patients, those who are diabetic patients, and they need a continuous delivery of insulin. If it can be controlled, automatic control can be there. Diabetic monitoring, if it is continuously possible, then I do not require hospitalization. For this, government funding for research and development is one of the parameters. We should advertise and awareness program that the blood pressure you can measure with the help of simple equipment. Pulse oximeter you can buy and read the oxygen level, etc. Promotion of healthy food and lifestyle practices. Yoga for stress level management. Role of government agencies, role of NGOs, way to improve mental health. For this, we should have sufficient number of programs to make people aware. Then point of care is another type of device. What is this device? Any screening or diagnostic tests that are performed outside the traditional laboratory. You have not to go to the lab for any testing. If it can be done at my place of residence or wherever I go to consult a doctor. So a person has not to move from one place to another place just to get his blood sample tested. If there is a technological solution available to this, designed to be used at or near the site where the patient is located. It may be home, it may be ambulance, it may be physician's office. Allow rapid and reliable diagnostic testing. The testing should be such like, these days we have a blood glucose test. You just prick and put a drop on your glucose strip and it will indicate what is your glucose level. It should be rapid and it should be reliable. And help physician and patient to make decision related to care remotely as soon as is possible. Now, if your blood sugar level is known to you, your blood oxygen level is known to you, you can consult your doctor and you get immediate treatment. So 12 type of point of care sensors, or you can say testing devices are available. Glucose monitoring, most of you know, it is invasive, means you have to prick. Digitally connected continuous glucose monitors are there, where you have not to prick. It works on some optical methods, etc. That is a non-invasive glucose monitor. Cardio metabolic testing products are there, like cardiac health monitoring, glucose monitoring, HbA1c, that is blood sugar, 3 months average blood sugar, cholesterol level, and blood gases. These devices are available. Infectious disease testing like influenza, HIV, hepatitis C, respiratory, and recently we are even having kits available, rapid test kits are available, or metabolic testing of COVID-19 kits are available. So you can say infectious diseases, or you can say prototype testing devices are available. Coagulation testing products, prothrombin time. Prothrombin time is a clotting time, basically. That is activated clotting time. Pregnancy, you must have seen so many advertisements in the newspaper. Simple strip is there which will test and give you the result whether the lady is pregnant or not. Fertility testing, that is ovulation period. You can find out when is the ovulation period or it has started or not. Then fecal occult testing product. This is basically screening of the stool to find out colon cancer, blood in the stool, etc. Checks for blood in stool which cannot be seen with the naked eye. Hematology testing products, tumor cancer markers are there. Urinary analysis testing products are available. Drugs of abuse, that is some drug of abuse testing products are available. Cholesterol testings are available. Point of care product, that is multi-assay testing. Multi-assay testing, many tests are done in one strip with the help of one strip only. Liver testing, hepatitis A and B testing, vitamin assay testing, many type of vitamin testing can be done with the help of strips, etc. Now there is a forecast that in next 3-4 years, glucose monitoring product market commanded the largest share of POC. Over-the-counter testing segments to witness higher growth. You must have seen these days, you go and buy glucose strips, you can go and buy urine strips. So many such strips are available which can be used as point of care test devices. I will give you a list also. One is point of care solution, so that load on healthcare professionals can be reduced. Second is wearable sensors, a sensor which can be put on the human body and continuously the parameters will be monitored and sent back to the doctors, or you can say medical professional. Like cardiovascular, ECG, heart rate monitoring can be done. There are joint movement tests also possible, that is GSR, galvanic skin response, temperature, pressure sensors. Then IMU is a motor unit response, that is whether your knee movement is normal or not, like this knee movement, etc. They transmit the data. They are censored networks are there. Censored networks are connected on the body and the data is transmitted. That is activity monitoring, same IMU for activity monitoring or for knee movement, etc. We have sensor network nodes which have limited storage. Because of the limited storage, they transmit the data. And data is collected from sensor network, transmits data to home gateway. To some server, the data is transmitted. So like this, we have pulse oximeter also, oxygen saturation, blood pressure, etc. The whole data is collected and then through internet can be sent to the healthcare providers, where they can take decision what additional care is required by the patient. So basically, load on hospitals are decreasing with this technology. Glucose monitoring product also, I have told you, you can continuously monitor the glucose level, and if it is normal, if it is within range, you can keep the patient in the home itself, or if there is any abnormality, either it can be shifted as per the advice of the doctor, or some other measures can be done as per the advice of the doctor or physician. Insulin pumps are there which will continuously supply insulin to the body. So patient has not to put or inject 3 times in a day, 2 times in a day, and then he is not sure whether he has given more insulin or less insulin. So this type of automatic system is available these days. ECG, cardiac, you can put a say undergarment like this which will monitor the ECG and transmit to a remote place. This is ECG T-shirt. There are many point of care tests which are available either at physician's chamber or on the counter. Pregnancy and ovulation detection kits. Smart BP meter. These days, blood pressure meters are having so many software available. They will indicate if there is any abnormal beat, that is arrhythmia if it is there. Any abnormal pulse, any abnormal shape, they will also indicate. So which is an indication that you have a smart blood pressure meter rather than a simple blood pressure meter. Body fat, muscle mass monitor, urine dipstick. So urine dipstick will give you like blood glucose, many of the urine parameters. Strep test, this is a throat test like they do in COVID-19. HIV test, N2S testing and surveillance, test and tracing. Tracing is also like yesterday we heard nearby there was a COVID patient and you can even by using Ayogya app, you can even trace how many people came in contact with this particular person and you can take further action. This can prevent a second wave. Digital POC technology to improve decision. Now, if the data is digital, we have decision making also. What action is to be taken? Arogya application. There are so many apps these days available. Even you have on your smartphone also. You can just measure your pulse rate. You can measure your blood pressure. You can measure your stress level. So many such type of applications are available. Like telemedicine, a person who is at a remote place, through technology, he can be connected to a super specialist hospital or to a medical specialist and can get advice. This is very commonly used, especially for remote places, as well as even in army, where the patient or the army jawans are posted in Ladakh, where the medical facilities is not possible so easily, and further every patient cannot be airlifted to the headquarters. So first telemedicine screen out which are the patient which require to be transmitted to the remote place. So that means battlefield in the area affected by natural calamities. If there is a natural calamity, there also medical facilities cannot be immediately provided to large number of people affected. So in this case, image transmission is also very important. Even the X-rays, ultrasound can be taken there locally and can be transmitted to an expert using telemedicine facilities. Artificial intelligence recently has also come in medical imaging. Actually, what has happened? Artificial intelligence can be used to detect whether there is an abnormality in a medical image or not. It is mostly used in MRI, magnetic resonance imaging, computer tomography, interventional radiology, like in case of cancer, etc., where a person has to give radiation, etc., aided reporting, follow-up planning. Say a person is having a tumor in the liver. After 3 months, size of the tumor reduces. Now AI will immediately measure how much is the size of the tumor, what is the progress rate. After 1 month, how much size has reduced. So follow-up planning can be done with the help of AI, or is being done these days with the help of AI. And what are the challenges where AI is helping? See, patient populations are aging. I have already told expectancy of life has increased, which means the volume and complexity and resolution of the images are increasing. Images are becoming more and more highly resolution, so the size of the image is increasing. But size of radiology workforce, the medical professional, is flat or shrinking. So more load with fewer personnel. So this is the challenge where AI is helping. AI will be able to provide so we do get pre-screening with the help of AI or pre-analysis. It is similar to like a co-pilot helping a radiologist to focus attention on urgent and critical care. That means there is another medical professional who is helping the radiologist to focus attention only on urgent and critical care patient. Normal screening where no medical facility help is required, this screening will be done. So AI is one technological solution to reduce the load on our healthcare workers. So solution is machine learning methods are being applied in all areas of medical imaging. Deep learning models are being developed for a wide range of conditions, promising to increase the speed and accuracy of analysis. High profile areas like detection of lung nodules, brain cancer, multiple sclerosis, breast cancer, prostate cancer, and liver tumors are being analyzed by using AI. So this is another technological solution to take care of large volume of images. Some AI-powered diagnostic tools which are available these days, smartphone mounted device for retinal imaging, a real-time alert whether a diabetic patient required to visit ophthalmologist or not. So smartphone, you put smartphone and take the picture of the retina and immediately it does the analysis and give you the analysis. This has been developed by one of the university in US and they have made it now public. So immediately it will indicate whether you require to visit an ophthalmologist or not. So simple. Various annotated databases of CT, that is computerized tomography of various type of lesion, liver ultrasound, tumors are available these days, which can be used for developing our machine learning algorithm, deep learning algorithm, etc. AI in medical imaging is somewhat similar to automated aircraft aviation, driverless vehicle. So AI in medical imaging, I say it is almost similar to an automated aircraft aviation, aircraft without any pilot, but it will help the pilot. Auto mode, you run, but there is one attendant, one pilot is available. Driverless vehicle is becoming more and more common. So that means AI has become one of the power diagnostic technique to decrease the load on the medical professionals. We have some therapeutic devices also, cervical collar traction pillow, so that you have not to go to the hospital. In the house itself, you get the relief. Nerve stimulators are there to reduce pain. Wearable ice hat to reduce migraine. Pain relief massagers are available. Smart water flossers are available for dental, etc. So many therapeutic devices are also available now where you do not have to go to the hospital or to medical facilities to get this relief. We have ubiquitous health care. This is basically database. High amount of data is available, then we can train our system to get automatic diagnosis. This is a technology-based solution, a technology that uses large number of environmental and patient sensors and actuators to monitor and improve patient physical and mental condition. Ubiquitous healthcare monitoring, which makes monitoring of healthcare data Basically, it is healthcare data without constraint of time or place. Time and place, anytime, any place, are required for seamless healthcare data collection. We get a lot of data, and then we develop AI-based application to make our system smart and intelligent. So there are many ubiquitous healthcare facilities which are available. Then another aspect is mental health. How mental health can be improved. You accept, these are again a person's training to have a better mental health by first accepting your emotions. Like yoga gurus are there, they try to teach the people daily risk, what are the daily risk factors, live in present, be introspective of, you see inside your what you want, what is there, what do you want to do, laugh loudly, determine and live your personal values, and so many practices. Practice gratitude, try to say thanks to all the persons, so that you develop a positive attitude, which also improve your health condition, etc. So so in the end, I will say conclusion, global health status have improved in terms of life expectancy. We have already discussed, life expectancy has increased. Healthy life expectancy has increased over the past 2 years, or 2 decades. Unhealthy life years increase. Unhealthy life has also increased, which causes many healthcare challenges. Lack of basic medical facilities, lack of healthcare professionals, lack of awareness, affordability. Now, these are the challenges. And second, patient populations are aging. Volume, complexity, and number of cases are increasing, but size of healthcare workforce is flat or shrinking. More load with fewer personnel. This is another conclusion which we have discussed. So solution is point of care units, wearable sensor network for fast and convenient health checkup. So health parameters will be available. Use of telemedicine and ubiquitous healthcare for disease diagnosis and treatment and patient care. Then creating awareness by government agencies, NGOs about healthy life, food habits, environment, etc. Now, these are the solutions. AI in automated analysis, decision making, deep learning and machine learning for fast diagnosis and analysis, cloud computing architecture for collecting of the data world all over, like ubiquitous healthcare system. Healthcare modeling and decision making during pandemic, like in the present case, large data is being connected. Now, decision making in such cases has become easy because we have developed the model, which medicine, which model, which care is useful, is all depend upon the medical data which we have collected. So with this, I have used some of the reference to prepare this presentation. So with these words, I close here. There are some, I wanted to touch antibody, this COVID test also, but anyway, so the basic was this, which I wanted to share with all of you. What is the healthcare status, challenges, and current technological solution. So anybody having any query or question, you may send through your chat box also, and we can respond back later on through email, etc. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, sir, for the very informative talk. And I hope all the participants have enjoyed the talk, including us. So there are a few queries from some participants. So I would like to read those queries.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, the first one is from Dr. Santosh Kumar Patra from Odisha. he has asked 2-3 queries. The first one is like, what are the various carcinogenic agents now occurring in nature?
Carcinogenic, actually, I have to go through some literature. There are many such like some metals. I have already told you that exposure to, you can say, zinc, exposure to asbestos, exposure to such type of, you can say, chemicals or such type of metals in environment, they are carcinogenic, they are cancer. In my cancer slide, I have shown that these are the metals. If they are present in environmental pollution, then they are one of the cause of the cancers. So all these metals, they are definitely toxic. We are not able to, you can say, consume them, and these traces, they cause cancer.
Okay, sir. Thank you. One more query we have from Dr. Diksha Panuli from Trivandrum. She asked, sir, in spite of various advanced technological developments in healthcare sector, there is still a lacuna of the real-time products that are available in the market to the real public. And another query, just another part was how industrial and academic partnership can also help in such scenarios. Please, sir.
See, all this technological development is basically in 3 stages. First level is the research component, when proof of concept is there. When proof of concept is there, then field testing is the second level. Then we do field testing. Third comes the production or mass production of that product. So which takes years to reach to a particular level, to the third stage. You see, now glucose meters are available in such a cheap, every blood test for your sugar level cost 5-10 rupees. Your pulse oximeters are available in plenty in market. Your pregnancy test kits are available in large, and testing cost is very, very less. So blood pressure meter, earlier we was having a simple sphygmo manometer type. Now digital meters are available where you get abnormal beats. If there is any arrhythmia problem, so these are detected or these are conveyed directly on the meter itself. And all these devices are available on the counter. If you just go to the market, you will find thermometer is one simple such device. Remote contactless thermometers are there. Urine strips are there. There are good number of such devices which are available. But slowly it takes time. Now, in some of the cases, as I have given, these are the point of care devices. Some of the point of care devices, they have crossed the proof of concept. They are being tested on large number of population to find out its accuracy, to find out its reliability. Once it is over, then people will take those, you can say, patents, and mass production will start. So that is what is happening over the last 10 years. If you just see 15 years back, we were not having any of such device. Last 10 years, we had good number of device. Now recently, the cost has also decreasing. And these are available from any chemist shop.
Okay, sir. Thank you. There is one announcement for the participants. We have just shared the feedback form link onto the chat box of the Zoom. So please fill that form, and accordingly you will get the certificates for this webinar also. So there is one more query from Jandeep Singh. He asked about, as you discussed, some machine learning and artificial intelligence based solutions are available for CT scan, MRI scan, and other techniques in biomedical sector. So what is the future like? Will it affect some job prospects of many people in the healthcare sector also?
See, these are not to replace the medical professionals. These are only to assist the medical professional. If you just look at history of medical equipment, 200 years back, X-ray was not there, ECG machine was not there, stethoscope was not there, ultrasound was not there. Then stethoscope came, people could hear the heart sound. Stethoscope could not replace the doctor. ECG came, the ECG could not replace the doctor. It only helps the physician to make the diagnosis more correct. So all these devices will improve our diagnostic efficiency, and it will also help to take large amount of load from medical professional where expertise is not required. Like screening, you go to a village. We did some research, that is how mouth ulcer and malignancy is there. You take a picture of the mouth ulcer or patch with the help of your mobile, and you can do the analysis by using cloud computing immediately, that whether you require further investigation or it is a simple you can say injury or a simple wound, no further investigations are required. So to go to the village, if you have to screen every person and you require large number of professionals, we do not have. So either you leave them as it is, or you do first screening without medical professionals, then only selected cases can be taken by the hospitals. So I have already given this data also, where the age, life expectancy is increasing, number of aged people are increasing, so workload is increasing, whereas the number of professionals are not increasing in that ratio. So it is not only to replace the professional, it is only to assist them and to reduce their load.
Okay, sir. Thank you. There are many more queries, but I will take just one or two more.
Okay.
Because time is limited. This we have from Mr. Manoj Kumar Das. Like, why we are applying MRI, and do we have some alternate technologies to MRI also?
See, if you just go through various medical imaging, different medical imagings have different application. Like X-ray is based on difference in density. Like bone is a high density material, tissue is a low density material. To differentiate between tissue and bone, or fracture means air in the bone and bone. Bone is having high density, air, if there is a fracture, air in the bone will be low density. So to differentiate whether there is a crack or not is possible with X-ray. Whereas ultrasound may not give you any solution whether the bone is fractured or not. One, based on the physics of various modalities, whether it is X-ray, CT, ultrasound, MRI, PET scanning, anything. One, depends upon the modality, what it will show, whether it will give you the tumor, the shape of the tumor, size of the tumor, whether it will show you whether the tumor is active or not, that is PET scanning, etc. So depending upon the requirement, the modality is selected. Basically, the X-ray, ultrasound, some of the CT scanning, these are some of the scanning techniques which are the first scanning techniques. By doing this, you get a basic idea. Then you advise, you go for MRI, you go for PET scanning, you go for any other SPET scanning, etc. They are the second level of screening. So it's not that X-ray can be replaced by ultrasound or ultrasound can be replaced by MRI. For many patients, MRI may not be required.
Okay, sir. The last question I am taking, sir. This is from Aradhana Sivasilam. She asked, can nanosensors be used for such remote diagnostic and treatment options?
They are being used. They are being used. Yes.
Okay.
They are being used. It's not like this. They are not being used.
Okay, sir. So with this, thank you very much for the very informative talk and also handling the queries very well. And I hope all the participants got their queries answered. Some are remaining actually, but just want to tell you, Aradhana as well as other participants, as you asked on nano sensors, our next webinar that is planned on 8th of September, 12:30 p.m. Indian Standard Time. That will be delivered by Professor Yossi Sechem Diamond from Tel Aviv University, Israel. And that will be on flexible nano biosensors for biomedical applications. So I hope that can answer some of the queries related to your question you asked just now. We have shared the Zoom chat box, the feedback form also. So please fill that form and accordingly we will provide you the certificates. So thank you very much. Thank you for joining us and I hope you enjoyed this session. I would like to thank first of all our Honorable Vice Chancellor sir for the beautiful talk. We listened him very carefully and in great detail. I would like to thank Professor Sudhir Kumar Sayal, HOD Department of Biotechnology and Bioinformatics for sparing his valuable time for us. I would like to thank my team, which includes Dr. Ragini Raj Singh from Department of Physics, Dr. Nishant Jain, who was working behind all the technical aspects of this webinar. Day and night, he was working on the successful completion of this one. We have Mr. Sambhunath with us for technical help and all the persons who are directly or indirectly involved in the organization of this successful event. So thank you very much and see you on 8th September once again for another wonderful webinar. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.